Lost in the dark. It's not a good day to be a bad guy.
What's up, metalheads? This is Wayne.
And Michelle.
And we are from the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast. And you are listening to
Burton and Aaron on the Lost in the Dark podcast.
Raise Your Horns.
Welcome back, Crypt Crew, and welcome back, everyone, to Lost in the Dark podcast. We are back. Finally, full disclosure, this episode was supposed to come out about roughly a week ago, but we had some things come up personally, and then also I have been out of town for the past week working out there in Flint, Michigan. And so being away from Lansing for that long kind of hindered things, slowed things down a little bit. But I'm back now. We are back now with a brand new episode of Lost in the Dark podcast. This time, everyone, Crypt Crew, join me in welcoming Molly from Living Dead Girl. We are so excited to have her on. Huge shout out to Keith and the Convalescents for making this happen. We have an absolute blast with Molly. We go through so much stuff. It's really a great time. So I'm not going to take up any time here. I'm just going to get into it real quick, though. I do want to say, everybody, be sure to check out the brand new first full-length album from Living Dead Girl, released on September 8th, 2021, titled Exorcism. And they are going out on a North American tour with Fate Destroyed, called the Exorcism Tour. And it goes, it starts on April 15th, and it starts right here in Michigan, in Westland, Michigan, at Joy Manor. We will be there. So if you like this interview and you like the music, check that, be at that show. We'll meet up. But they're going to Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. And that's all from April 15th to April 30th. They are from Living Dead Girls from Toronto, Canada. So this is their first North American tour, and we couldn't be happier to have them. So huge shout out. And everybody be sure to check out those tour dates and check out Exorcism. Another one that real quick I want to shout out is the another one from Keith the Legend Recording Agency presents Reflection of Flesh and Bound by Years Surviving the Fall Tour. It's already started back on February 23rd and goes all the way through March 13th. And actually, March 12th, the second to last show, is at Papa Pete's in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We will be there as well. So everybody be sure to check out all things Bound by Years, Reflection of Flesh, and of course, Living Dead Girl. I cannot speak highly enough of Molly. This was a great, we had a great time talking to her. I can't wait to see him live and meet her in person. And we already can't wait to have her back on. This was truly like a genuine pleasure. Like nothing but awesome. That's why I don't want to take up too much time at the top here, like I normally do. I just want to get right into it, because we have so much fun. It was, it's one of those not interview. I said interview earlier, not interview. We don't do interviews here. We try to have conversations. And that's the other thing is the second time someone's on is always better. Cause like we always have like the icebreaker questions, you know what I mean? For any longtime viewers of this show, we always have the same icebreakers for like anyone that, comes on the show for the first time. But then the second time they're on, it's all out the window. It's all off the cuff at that point. Unless they have something like a new release or a new tour specifically that I have like maybe one or two questions about or whatever. But besides that, it's just friends hanging out. It's just a bunch of fucking metalheads. So thank you so much, Molly, for being on the show and gracing the crypt with your presence. Thank you so much. It was absolutely amazing. We had a blast with you, and we cannot wait to see you guys play live and to have you back on the show. Without further ado, everyone, Crypt Crew! We love you all. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you join me in welcoming Molly from Toronto's own Living Dead Girl. Love you guys. Enjoy. Here we go. Welcome back to Lost in the Dark, everyone. We got Molly Rennick from Living Dead Girl on the show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Whenever we have someone on for the first time ever, we always, because, you know, at the end of the day, 99% of the world's population doesn't even like heavy metal. And so the few that we get on that are not only into it, but they actually do it for a living. We are always curious about your personal individual, like, how did you find heavy music?
I mean, as you can see, like behind me, like there's guitars everywhere. I literally grew up in a musical family. My dad's always been obsessed with like Pink Floyd and Van Halen and like that kind of classic rock music. So everything that was always played around me as a young child was always heavy music. Like it was all I knew really, because it's all we listened to. So there was always guitars around me. My dad builds and collects them. There was just always rock music playing. So it was just like my life as long as I can remember. Like we never listened really to like pop music or ever country or rap or anything. Like rock music was just the only kind of music that existed. So naturally that's like what I ended up liking once I was old enough to start discovering bands that I could actually pick and put on myself. And I found I was obsessed with Avril Lavigne when I was a kid, still am. But even with her music, I didn't like her softer, more ballady songs as much. I always liked the songs where she was angrier and she was swearing a lot. And there was like guitar heavy, like that kind of stuff going on. So then I realized that when I was like 7 or 8, I was like, I always like the songs that are more aggressive and more, you know, angry. So then I started listening to like Marilyn Manson and stuff like that when I was like 9 years old, because I was just like, I always love the energy and the, like, it gives like an adrenaline rush listening to it. So I just like progressively got into heavier and heavier music because I just liked the energy in it.
So your parents kind of really introduced you into the heavier stuff then.
Yeah.
And you said your dad collects and builds guitars?
Yeah, I think he actually built like half the ones that are behind me right now.
Oh
like he literally builds them by hand.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
So there's like 30 guitars in this room.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That I am like, you know, Aaron is a drummer, but he's also a guitar player. I am not a guitar player, but I play a lot of guitar. So I really love and appreciate all of that. Is there like a specific style of guitar that he prefers to build or that you prefer to play?
That he prefers to build, I don't even know. I'm looking around the room. I'm like, I see a lot of, they're mostly Telecasters.
Okay.
There's like 6 Telecasters behind me. I'm like looking around. I'm like trying to count them all. And there's a lot of like, yeah, see that, like there's a lot of Telecasters.
No, they're gorgeous. Yeah, that's awesome.
I personally played Telecaster my whole life too, because I was an Avril Lavigne wannabe and she plays them too. So like even like right beside me here, I have like Avril Lavigne's signature model.
Oh no way.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Also I have the pink Daisy Rock guitar, which is like basically a children's guitar, but that's what I played in the Exorcism video because the color was perfect.
I was actually gonna ask about that.
Yeah,
I was
that
gonna
guitar was hard to track down because I wanted that exact style. I remember seeing it in a music store when I was like 10 or 11 and like really wanting it, and then it got discontinued. So to find, and then I knew I wanted that exact guitar for the Exorcism video. I was like to my dad, what was the name of that brand that specifically makes guitars for girls? The neck is a little bit smaller, so like for smaller girl hands, it's easier to play. I was like, what was it called? And I was like, I think it was like a flower or something. I was like, oh, it was Daisy Rock. So I found their website and they didn't have that style. So I had to like track it down. Some music store in like Illinois. Am I pronouncing that right? My American geography skills aren't good.
That's good. Yeah, Illinois.
I'm Canadian. I don't know how to pronounce your states. So I found it at some music store in the States and they wanted like $500 for it, but it said it had been listed for like 5 years or something. So I just messaged them. I was like, would you take like 200 or 300? And like they were back within like 30 seconds, like sold, you can have it. And I was like, okay, I guess no one else wanted it. Maybe I was like, maybe there's a reason no one else wanted it, but I want it because it's pink and sparkly.
When I saw that in the Exorcism video, it just popped to me. I was like, that I have to know what kind of guitar that is because it was kind of like hard to see. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Can you hand me that guitar there, please? It's literally right here. Thank you. So
no way.
That's it.
Oh my
There's a
goodness.
Daisy Rock,
Yeah,
and
see,
they're like
because
super girly. Like, look how small the neck is. Like, I'm tiny. I have like child hands, and like, look how small the neck is. Like, so it's much easier for girls to play because I don't have big man hands.
The headstock is kind of like a longer version of like a PRS style headstock. So I was wondering if it was a PRS, but that's awesome. That's awesome. Did you, so like before, okay. So before like realizing you liked the harder stuff from Avril, was there anything that your parents introduced you to that was a little bit harder that kind of like maybe clicked in any way?
I mean, my parents aren't into like as heavy of music as I'm. Like, they don't listen to like, I don't even know all the subgenre names. Like, I'm not like one of those like genre nerds.
Neither
like my parents, they don't listen to like metalcore or like death metal or like grindcore. Like, they don't listen to that kind of metal. They listen to more like Van Halen and like that kind of stuff. I mean, my mom does listen to the heavier stuff now because she goes to concerts with me all the time. But like, so it was more like classic rock that I heard. But every time I heard heavy music, it was always a male vocalist. So I always just thought that heavy music was only for boys when I was little. And I thought I was so cool and different because I was a girl and I liked rock music, because I thought like girls don't sing rock music. Girls are like Britney Spears or Beyonce or what, that kind of music. So like, I just always thought like if you wanted to sing rock music, like you had to be a boy. Like, so I always just listen to like Van Halen and like that kind of stuff. So it was like weird for me when I heard, I mean, Avril means like pop rock or like pop punk, like radio rock. She's not heavy, but like even just like watching her music video when I was like 4 years old for Skaterboy, where she was playing guitar and she like smashed it into like the window of like a cop car and stuff. I was like, wait, she's a girl and she's doing it. So like that kind of just like expanded my brain a little bit. I was like, wait a minute, it's not just boys that do that.
That's actually a very similar, like when no, I was in middle school when Avril came out with her first album, and that did like, it was at the same very similar time as like American Idiot. So like pop punk was very popular at the time, and Avril blew me away. Green Day blew me away. And then once I got into the heavier stuff and I found something like Arch Enemy, I'm like, wow, this is the shit. Like, this is some of the best shit I've ever, like, to this day, Angela Gasso is one of my favorite vocalists of all time. And so, yeah, that's okay. So yeah, fair enough. That's a really cool, like, kind of like introduction into it, I guess. That's neat.
And I think that's why my musical taste is so, like, I like every kind of music pretty much.
Yeah.
Not every kind. Minus a few things. But I mean, I can go so seamlessly on my playlist between like pop music to really heavy metal, because since I kind of transitioned into liking heavy music, like it started with like Skater Boy, and then I started listening to like Marilyn Manson, and then I got into like Motionless in White and Ice Nine Kills, Falling in Reverse, like other heavier bands. Like, since I like kind of like went down a slope there, I feel like now like it just kind of makes me more versatile as an artist, because I can appreciate everything from the overly auto-tuned, polished to shit radio music to like really heavy, grungy 90s, like Nine Inch Nails, Nirvana, like more grungy. Like, I feel like listening to a lot of different music over my life helps you as a musician.
Super raw shit. Yeah. Going from having that wide variety. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because then you can pull influence from so many different things. Because if you're like really, really niche and you only like one thing and you're not very open-minded, then like you're really limiting yourself when you go to make your own music, because you just have like, it can only sound like this. I am this genre. I am in this box, this cookie cutter. Whereas like when people hear Living Dead Girl, they're like, it's kind of like pop, but it's like heavy, but it's like gothic. It's kind of industrial. It's really modern, but you hear 90s vibes. Like, it's so all over the place. And I'm like, that's because I've never been super close-minded about, I only listen to this kind of music. I've always opened myself up to listening to different kinds of music. And that's why I can like experiment so much, as I'm just like open to it.
I feel like you've done an amazing job at like not pigeonholing yourself. And that's a big thing that we talk about on this show, is like when we talk about bands, like when we do like a deep dive into an album or something like that, it's never like, whenever we use the subgenre terms to describe sounds, it's never to like pigeonhole anyone. It's just like, this is part of what they sound like, because everybody sounds like so many things now. And that's and so you grew up like outside of Toronto, if I'm correct?
Yeah, I just say Toronto because that's easier.
and so like that. Yeah, we live like an hour outside of Detroit, so it's kind of, for people outside of Michigan, it's kind of, it's the same
You just
thing.
name the major city and then people can picture it on a map.
The closest major city, exactly. So what was it like in terms of heavy music in it when you were younger, growing up? Were there a lot of people into it in your area, or were you kind of one of the first ones?
There isn't really. I mean, people a bit older than me, there was. Like, I kind of got into, like, as a teenager, hanging out with people in like their early 30s and stuff, because I was like in bands and going to local shows and stuff. But like people my own age, like not at all. Like, I was bullied in school because I was the kid that wore black lipstick and listened to metal. Like, it was really bad, actually, because everyone just listened to pop, country, or rap. So the fact that I was putting videos of myself doing screamo in my basement on YouTube when I was 16 really didn't sit right with a lot of people.
That's very similar for me. Like I definitely got a lot of that for wearing, the Cannibal Corpse t-shirts and all that stuff.
Going from a similar small town experience.
Yeah, Aaron grew up in a very small town outside of Lansing, Michigan. Yeah.
I feel like that's how small towns are in general, though, because like when you're in like a big major city like Toronto or like Los Angeles or New York City, there's a lot more like artistic people. Whereas when you're in like a more small town, it's like there's less like creatives and less artists and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to like insult people, but like I was the only kid out of 1,500 kids in high school that dressed the way I did. And we had a school uniform, but I would put like a big petticoat tutu underneath my Catholic school kilt to poof it out. And all the teachers were like raising an eyebrow at me. They're like, that's not even in the dress code because no one's ever come up with that. Like, what the hell is that? And I'd wear fishnets and like 6-inch platform boots, spike collars. Like, so if I'm one of 1,500 that dressed like that, and I had like the black hair dye, and I always wore huge lashes, shaved my eyebrows off, like basically the way I look now, but as a 15-year-old. So if there's only one of those in 1,500, it's going to stick out. So I always laugh now. It's kind of funny whenever I see someone I went to high school with, like out in public, they're like, hey, Molly. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Because I never know their names, because I'm like, we wore a uniform and every single one of you is just like, didn't wear makeup, has brown or blonde hair, and wore a school uniform.
Y'all look the same.
Whereas I dressed like a friggin' freak. I stuck out. So it's like, so it's much easier for them to remember me than for me to remember them, because I'm like, there was 1,500 of you and there was only one goth kid.
Right.
Out of the whole school. Like I couldn't even find one other goth to be friends with. Like I was the only one.
God damn it, you're preaching to the choir right now, because like that I didn't even have I was raised Catholic, but I wasn't put in a Catholic school. I was in public school in here in America, but I was, during my 4 years, the only one that wore Cannibal Corpse t-shirts and Metallic, Children of Bodom and all that stuff. And so yeah, I was regularly ridiculed for that shit. And then post high school, it's like whenever I see someone in public, they're like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, yo, I don't know who you are. B, you never talked to me before. Like, what's going on here?
I'm like, you used to call me ugly and now you're on my OnlyFans. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, don't you have a poster of me in your bedroom now? I saw you bought one on my website.
Recognize the address.
Yeah, I'm like, didn't you call me ugly in grade 10? You just bought a friggin' 24 by 36 poster of me in a bikini. Like, what?
That's fantastic. That's what it is, though. It's sticking it to the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's, so I have to ask too, like, so that's kind of your personal metal origin stories, how you got into everything. You clearly were into it at a very young age. And that's really how it gets into a lot of us, where we're in middle school, high school, something like that. And somebody shows us just the right thing, the right note, the right thing that clicks eventually in our heads. How do we get to Living Dead Girl? What is Living Dead Girl's origin story? Because
God, it was
now, and I have to ask about the name, because of course it's a very famous Rob Zombie song, and as a, you know, I'm just a podcaster. I have done a similar thing where like Lost in the Dark, that name itself is like the first song back in high school that my cousin and I ever wrote together. And I just thought that would be a cool podcast name for when I started it. And then on top of that, I have also like, because back then we had, this is embarrassing, but we did have a band called Vaccination, where on stage, I used the stage name Wrathchild, which is of course a Iron Maiden song, but it's also a ripoff of what Alexi Laiho from Children of Bodom went by, the Wild Child. And I was kind of just combining those things together. And so when I saw your guys' name was Living Dead Girl, I was curious about the origins of that name and the band in general, of course.
Okay, well, you're going to be shocked. Everyone always is when I tell a story. It had nothing to do with the Rob Zombie name, because I named my band that when I was 15 years old. And I'm going to straight up admit, even though this makes me sound lame, at the age of 15, the only Rob Zombie song I knew of was Dragula. Not going to lie. It
Still
was
sick.
The only Rob Zombie song I knew. So it didn't even come from that.
No way.
Obviously, people obviously assume it does, because of course you're going to put the pieces together and just assume that.
It's a famous song. You know,
it's yeah, I know now it's a huge song. I love it now, but I was in like grade 10 when I formed my band. So like I hadn't even heard of it. I called my band Living Dead Girl because, long story short, when I was born, my parents thought I was dead for like a solid few minutes. Like I was like gray, not breathing. You know, normally babies come out screaming and crying, and I was just laying there and like not breathing. So then like the doctor was like, oh shit, like I think it's a stillborn, like what the fuck? And they were like slapping my face, trying to get me to breathe and stuff. And my mom told me that when I was like 10 or 11 years old. And I just thought it was so cool, because I was like, because already by age 10, 11, I was already wearing black lipstick and fishnets and everything. Like I was already like goth or whatever you want to label it.
I love it.
So I said to my mom, it's actually really funny. I was like, I came into this world like dead. And I was like, and now I'm like goth or whatever. I'm just like, it's actually funny how much that story suits me. Sorry, just cut out for a second there. I don't know
you're
if you...
fine. No, we're
good.
Sure
okay, cool. So I just thought it was like cool, and I was trying to think of a band name that suited me, because I kind of wanted a band name that could kind of double as a stage name. Like I don't go by Living Dead Girl, I go by Molly. But so many people will just be like to me, "Oh, you're Living Dead Girl, and aren't you the Living Dead Girl? And that's the girl from Living Dead Girl." Like people just call me that. So I kind of wanted a name that like represented me as an individual. So that's why I came up with Living Dead Girl. And then I found out it was a Rob Zombie song like shortly after. I'd already printed it on t-shirts. Like I went to a little local shop and got some t-shirts made, and I'd already started playing some local shows under that name. And then a few people had said to me like, oh, isn't that a copyright issue? And I was like, what are you talking about? So then I quickly started researching it. Like, can I name my band something that's already a song title? Turns out, as far as trademark goes, that like song name and artist name are not even the same legal category, so they can't conflict each other. And then I found a whole list of other bands that named themselves after songs. And if you go on Wikipedia, it's like 4 pages, like books, even like Of Mice and Men. That's a famous book. Motionless in White. It was Motionless and White.
Yep.
Like there's like a huge list. And then it's just like, okay, if anyone wants to accuse me of ripping off or stealing, it's like, here's your list of other bands. Like even Lady Gaga got her name from the Queen song Radio Gaga.
Oh shit, I didn't know that one.
So many artists do that I was like, okay, I don't feel like
a
loser for doing that. So because at first I was like, oh shit, I was like, should I change it? And we were trying to come up with other band names, and like I was drawing a blank. I was like, I'm really attached to the name Living Dead Girl. I was like, I already bought the domain livingdeadgirl.com and like got shirts made and stuff. I'm like 16 spending my waitressing money on like making a band, and I was like, I'm not changing it now. I'm committed.
Beautiful. That's awesome. That is it. Aaron, go on.
Isn't it kind of a weird thing when you realize like something that you thought was like one of one is like, oh wait, no, somebody else had that similar idea, or like, oh, there's like I don't know, just kind of interesting to me. Like whenever you think of like a
sentence before, like I've heard the term. I didn't think I like made it up, but like I knew no one had used it as a band before, so I was like, okay, it's mine.
It's true.
Like I'm pretty sure even before the song, it is a novel as well. I think it's a French novel and movie.
Yeah, no, there's even like back when I was younger, dating myself a little bit here, but back when I was younger and would go to like like Blockbuster and like, you know, video stores and stuff.
Oh, I loved Blockbuster.
Yeah, thank you.
I can still smell that carpet.
Oh, I miss that smell. I miss that smell.
It's like new car smell.
They would occasionally, that, you know, you'd go into the horror section and they would I would go in and see a movie called Laid to Rest, and I go, Lamb of God, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff where reusing of titles and names, things like that. So, but that's absolutely insane. Because I'm someone that like I said, I kind of like tried to kind of like repurpose like certain influences, just because they influence me for my, like, you know, for something like a podcast or artwork or whatever. And the fact that you came up with that actually on your own, like, that's insane. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I love that. So how does then the band itself, you start when you're 15 years old, correct?
Yeah, I started putting ads on. I don't think you have it in the States, but this website called Kijiji. It's basically Craigslist.
Okay. No, yeah, we don't have that here.
It's basically Craigslist.
Okay.
So it's sketchy. I started putting ads saying like band wanted, and like random dudes would show up at my house with their instruments, and like it was sketchy a few times. Like the one time this one guy showed up like 3 hours after the audition had ended. Like we just had an open audition day, where I just had like a ton of people coming in and out. And the one guy showed up like 3 hours late because he like missed the bus or something. And then he just like came in my house and wouldn't leave. And it was just my mom and I there. And we were getting like scared. We were like, hey, you need to leave now. Like, get the fuck out of my house. Finally, my mom was like, hey, no more like bringing strangers in our house. Like, this is so sketchy. But I couldn't find anyone. Like, there was no one in my high school that wanted to be in a metal band. Like, I couldn't find anyone. So what I ended up doing, and this is hilarious if I do say so myself, I made a Tinder account and I swiped right on every single dude holding a guitar in his profile picture and sent them the same copied and pasted message like, hey, I'm a vocalist. I listen to things like, you know, like Hailstorm, Pretty Reckless, in this moment, other like female fronted bands. I was like, if you dig that, you want to come make a band with me. I found a full band.
That's
and it worked.
Genius.
I found a producer. I found like guitarists. So I got 2 guitarists, I got a bassist, then we found a drummer. Like I formed a whole band off of it. Because there were people on there that I wouldn't have just been able to find on Facebook. Like, because what would I search on Facebook? Just type in like guy holding a guitar. Like that's not going to bring up anything. And like if I was making posts on Facebook, they wouldn't necessarily see it because they're not friends with me or don't have many mutual friends or whatever. So I just went on there and like did the kilometers to be like the whole greater area. And it's the funniest thing is that only one of the people that I found on Tinder is still in my band to this day. And it's our bassist, Jordan. And it like, that's just like the funniest story. Cause like whenever we're together, people will be like, oh, you guys have been in a band together since you're like 16. He's 1 year older than me. So now I'm 23, he's 24, but we've been in a band together since we were 16. And when people were like, how, and he lives an hour and a half away from me. Like he doesn't even live in the same city as me, but I found him on Tinder and I said, do you want to come to my house and play music with me? So honestly, for a long time, it was just me and a bassist. And we called ourselves a band. It was kind of embarrassing. He'd come over to my house and we'd do like, I'd do his makeup and like do like crazy heavy eye makeup on him. And we'd dress up and like, we'd just like take selfies and we'd put them on Facebook and be like, we're a band. And now we look back at that and like throw up in our mouths a little bit and laugh because it was just so cringe.
It's pretty fucking metal though. That's pretty
It's kind of funny. We'd like go stand under a bridge covered in graffiti and like take a picture. And we were like, we are Living Dead Girl. And we'd put it on Facebook and we just kept saying album coming soon, even though we weren't recording an album. We just kept saying that.
Been there before.
And we couldn't find a drummer. So at one point, Jordan and I recorded ourselves like smacking our laps on GarageBand and then like put distortion on it or something. And we were like, that's the drums.
That's
and
fucking awesome.
I recorded some terrible vocals like into like the microphone on my earphones. Just like the most like blown out, distorted screaming you've ever heard. Like it was complete dog shit. Like that song still exists somewhere. Jordan found it in his Dropbox or something recently, sent it to me, and I was like, I'm not even opening it. I was like, maybe some night after half a bottle of wine, I will open that, but not tonight. Not right now. Like
special occasions.
Like we weren't a band. Like we weren't
Right.
a real band for
Right.
a few years, but it all really came together when we met a guitarist who had a friend who was like a local engineer, and he actually had like a little home studio. So then Jordan and I went there, we wrote a few songs. Actually, one of the songs we did with him was Worship Me, which is on Exorcism now.
Yes.
So like we went record that. I was like in high school when we recorded Worship Me. I don't know what the fuck those
that's
lyrics.
That's a closing track, right?
Second last. The very
Second
last
last.
is
Okay,
the ballad.
Okay.
But Worship Me is like the nastiest lyrics of all the songs in the album. Like little
So
high school
gnarly.
Molly was like, I'm so edgy writing that. But yeah, we recorded it in like a friend's home studio, and
oh my God.
we recorded a 5-song EP that I never released. Yeah, like it's just been like years of basically doing nothing. And then the past like 2 or 3 years is when like it got real. Like when all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm gonna go to LA and work with this producer and like that. So up until like 2 or 3 years ago, it was just like a sad joke. And then like I got serious and good a few years ago.
So then how did you find how did you end up with John and Ryan, the guitarist and the drummer?
So John is actually no longer in Living Dead Girl.
No
Never,
way.
Like,
Okay.
I never actually like officially announced that or anything, but yeah, he hasn't been since like last summer.
Fair
But
enough.
so I found John. Where did I find John? I think he was one of the ones I swiped right on Tinder, honestly. Yes. And then his roommate was a producer. So that's then where I met Tyler,
Oh wow.
who co-wrote Worship Me with. So it was just like a domino effect.
Oh wow.
And then Ryan, I knew through a mutual friend. So Ryan doesn't live in the same city as me either. He lives like 40 minutes away. So I
Okay.
probably never would have crossed paths with him. But
Right.
I was looking for a drummer, and someone I know in my town was like, oh, there's this like session guy, Ryan. Like we hired him before and he was really good. So I was like, hit him up and was like, yo, you want to play in my band? And now he's been playing with us for like 3 years now.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
What have you played live? Like what was your first live performance with Living Dead Girl like?
Very first Living Dead Girl live performance. I was 18 and it was with Jordan.
So this is
John
like
was in it.
4 or 5 years ago now then?
Yes. So
Okay.
if I'm 23 now, that was 5 years. I can't count.
Neither
Okay,
can
count
I.
backwards. 22, 21, 20, 19, 18. So yeah, 5 years ago. Just counted
Right.
on my hands. Not ashamed. So yeah, I was 18 years old. It was at a local bar, and they were doing a 90s night. So they were picking a bunch of local bands and like assigning them an artist from the 90s to cover. So I think one was Green Day, one was like Red Hot Chili Peppers. And they messaged me and said, hey, do you want to do like a Marilyn Manson set? And I at the time was like, I don't even have a band, but it was just like me and a bassist. So I was just like, yeah, sure. So Tyler, was it Tyler who played it with us? No, Tyler played later. So I found a guitarist. It was Brandon at the time. And we had a different drummer, Nick. I've had about 30 different band members at this point.
Oh no.
Jordan and I
that's-
laughed
yeah.
trying to name them all off, like because we've had so many at this point.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was a 4-piece band, and it was our local bar, and we just played Marilyn Manson songs because we didn't have originals, and it was like a 90s tribute night. But the funniest thing to me was that the promoter doing the show asked Living Dead Girl to do the Marilyn Manson one because I posted a video of myself covering Horror by In This Moment, so he knew I could scream.
Oh, okay. Nice.
But like I remember the owner of the bar at the time saying like, well, why would you pick a girl to sing Marilyn Manson? Like girls can't sing like that. Like, what do you think it's gonna sound like? And like then the promoter was like, no, trust me, like I've heard this girl sing. She can sing like Marilyn Manson. And then like after my set, the owner of the bar came up. He's like, I'm not gonna lie to you. He's like, I was like scared to see this set. Like I thought it was gonna suck because like it's a girl trying to sing Marilyn Manson. Like that can't be good. And he's like, but like blown away. He like gave me like his phone number stuff. He's like, you can play at my bar anytime you want. Like we had a huge, it was our
Awesome.
very first show. We had a huge mosh pit. People were going nuts. Like it was crazy. Like how good the energy was. There's probably like 200 people there, which is pretty big for a very first show.
That's that. Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
There's actually there's still video footage of this performance, but I don't have it on public. I have it on private.
Fair enough.
But maybe one day I'll resurrect it and be like, hey, if you want to see High School Molly singing some Manson, here it is.
Put that on YouTube. Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It's on private.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
we,
so
we
that
have a
was
lot
my
of things on private too.
yeah, the things that I'm like, this isn't really on brand now. I'll just switch to private. But it was really fun because like it's actually kind of good, I think, to play your first few shows doing covers because
Yeah.
it was songs I'd been familiar with for like several years stuff. So I wasn't like the very first time I played originals live, I was like, oh shit, what are the words again? I wrote it and I don't know.
Yeah,
Whereas if
right,
it's like
yeah,
singing like Sweet Dreams and the Beautiful People, I was like, oh, I've been listening to this since I was 9. Like it was just so
Right.
comfortable and so easy to do.
right.
But like I'd performed by myself many times before that, just usually to like a karaoke track or like just myself playing guitar. Like I actually sang in local bars to karaoke tracks, which is like by myself, just Molly Rank, Not Living Dead Girl. I did that for years, and it was not good because that was before I got a vocal coach, so it was not good.
I started somewhere though. I mean, I
Yeah.
imagine that like having that kind of like place to start and stuff, and being able to get out in front of those people kind of helped like going forward with the stage stuff and getting out in front of more people.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, was I had so much stage presence and I was so confident, and I'd get so done up and dressed up, even though I'd be standing in the corner of a restaurant playing in front of like 8 people who just wanted food and literally did not want to hear it. And like, but I was just so confident. I just owned it. And like, my mom like was like even telling me, she's like, okay, you can't sing, like you suck.
Jesus Christ.
Like my whole family told me that, but that made me want to get better because everyone told me I sucked. So it made me angry, and it made me like go get vocal lessons, and it made me get really good. Whereas if you give your kid a participation trophy, like you're the best, sweetie, I never would have gone and seeked a vocal coach and like tried to get better. I would have just been like, well, I'm the best. My mom said so. Those people go nowhere in life. So I'm really glad I had the brutal honesty. But the whole thing was, everyone said to me like, but your stage presence is amazing. Like you are a performer. Like my grandpa said to me, he's like, you can't carry a tune in a bucket, but you can perform. So it was.
But that hang on, that fucking means some from someone like a grandfather that like you can fucking perform like that. Like I like someone like me, I would internalize that very heavily. Like that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was like, I know I'm meant to do this, because I was like, I can go on stage in front of hundreds of people and like rock out. I was like, I'm not nervous. I'm not embarrassed. I'm really confident. I was like, I obviously have that because I'm supposed to be performing. I was like, I just needed to work on the singing aspect for a couple of years before I like went out on big stages.
There's something crazy about having that moment of like, I'm gonna be so undeniable at this, like whatever it is, and then like when you finally have that moment, so like going for whatever it is, it's like, I don't know, you feel like you pretty much, you know, do whatever kind of comes to you. So it's always cool.
Yeah, like when I discovered I could scream, I was like 16 or 17 years old. And like I literally just like flipped a switch in my throat and it just came out perfectly like the first time. And I was like, whoa, now that I know how to do that, I'm gonna keep getting the muscle memorization, keep practicing it, and like get really good at it. But the second I discovered I could like make that sound with my voice, I was like, I'm meant to be a metal singer. I'm like, why else can I do this?
Wait, so that actually is something that I did want to ask you about is how did you find your screaming voice? Like what?
Literally just trying to sing in this moment songs in my basement. And I was like,
no way.
Like, there's gotta be a way to do this. I was like I'd try to push it and it would make like a gross, like croaky noise. And I was like, that's not it. And then I'd try again and it would hurt a bit. And I'd be like, that's not it, because that one hurts. And then I'd do it. It'd be like really shrill. Like I kept trying. And literally like it took like one day. Like I was like in my basement, like in this music room where I am right now. I was just down there for like a few hours, and within a few hours, like it just came out perfectly one time. And I was like shocked. I like paused the music and just sat there for a second, like, whoa. And I was like, I need to film this in case it never happens again. So I pulled up my phone, I filmed it, and I ended up posting that video on social media and stuff. Cause I was like, people like, look what I can do. Like all overly confident when I was like 16. But then I kept doing it because like once I figured out how to do it, I just like know now to flip the switch, like to go between clean and screams. Like I know exactly where it sits in my throat, like where it is in my diaphragm. Like now that I know how to do it, I can just go to that place mentally every single time. So like I just kind of like found it, and then now I know how to activate it whenever I want it.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
It's kind of stumbled across it.
So you never like went into like you never did like checked out like have you ever heard of Melissa Cross?
I have her DVDs and I have
So do I.
not done them yet.
So yeah, that same. But like
I was going to before I go on tour, but I'm in the middle of moving and I've been busy. But I have both of her DVDs, and I also wanted to do some one-on-one training with her before our tour as well, if I can squeeze that in. because like
Yeah.
she's the best.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Mm.
And but the fact that you like kind of like found it in yourself, and you had the presence of mind to know that like when it hurts, that's not working. I can't tell you, there are a handful of bands that when I first started going to concerts, that no longer exist because their screamers didn't know how to scream, and they had to get throat surgeries, and they tore themselves up to where they couldn't go on anymore. They're great bands, but they couldn't go on anymore because they weren't doing it the correct way. They weren't trained properly like the way that Melissa Cross does. And so the fact that you've actually found it on your own and then found Melissa, or just technique in general, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty amazing. That's awesome.
Thank you. I just knew when I was doing it, like when I was trying it for the first few times, I was like, I know this isn't supposed to hurt.
Right.
Like, but you can like exhaust yourself doing it. Like even after I play a show, like I'll come off stage and like kind of talk a little quieter and like want to like rest it. Because like you can like kind of exhaust yourself doing it a bit.
Absolutely.
But like a few times when I tried it, I felt kind of like a bit of like a stingy, like one time I remember I did it and then I drank orange juice after and it burned. And I was like, okay, so whatever I just did, that was not it. That was like, that is not it.
I know exactly what you're saying, actually. Yeah. Go on though, Aaron. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I like as far as trying to learn like techniques and stuff, it was always like the really bad like YouTube, like there's like 100 different people trying to explain like, oh, like different like techniques and stuff, but until you actually try to do it and like figure out what works for you, it's hard to kind of like figure out what's gonna work and like what you're not supposed to do and stuff. So like kind of trial and error. So
yeah.
There are some good ones. Fuck, I wish I could remember her channel's name right now, but there is a really good like vocal coach on YouTube that I watched.
She a blonde girl?
That might be it, actually.
I don't remember her name either, but I think I've seen some of her videos. She's probably like late 20s, early 30s and blonde.
Yes,
what is
yes.
her name? But I think I know exactly who you mean.
She's really good at like breaking down like the fries and all that stuff. Like,
and she's an actual vocal coach.
Yeah,
she's not just like some rando on YouTube.
No, yeah, exactly. No, she's and she even does like breakdowns of vocal performances and stuff like that. And no, she's really good. Wish I could remember her name, the channel name right now, but yeah.
Let's go on YouTube and type in "screaming tutorial" and see if she comes up.
And it often has like a purple like background or like vibe to it.
I can picture who you mean.
Yep. Okay, so we're talking about the same person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've had people ask me, like people have asked me to make YouTube videos like teaching people to scream. Like so many people have asked me that. And I'm like, 1, I am not a vocal coach. 2, if I fuck someone's vocal cords up, I don't want to be responsible for it. 3, I honestly don't know how to describe what I'm doing because I just go by feel. And I've done it for long enough at this point that like I said, muscle memorization, like my throat just knows where to go each time now. Like I just have like a switch. Like it's just awesome. Like, okay, I'm going into scream mode now and it just comes out. Like I can just pull it out of nowhere. So like I can't describe that to someone because it's like years of my brain knowing this is how I do it. And like, so like for me to try to teach it to someone, I'm like, I don't even know what, like, I could probably do a video of like tips, like do this, don't do that, or try doing this and see if that sounds better. Like I could like give people tips, but I'm like, I'm not a vocal coach. I'm like, I don't want to tell someone try this and then they like rip a vocal cord and now they're mad at me.
Just at the end of the day, like the number one thing with that style of vocals is just it should never hurt. If it hurts, you're doing it wrong, right? Like that's the number one thing. That's kind of the biggest thing with that because it's about longevity. You know what I mean? If you want to make multiple records and if you want to be able to go on tour, it's you know, you got to be able to do it for a long time every single night, and it can't hurt.
Well, that's the thing is we're going on our very first tour soon. I've never done a tour in my life. So I've really been practicing singing our songs, but kind of holding back a bit, like not pushing it like as hard, like giving it the way I do in the studio, but singing a bit softer. Cause I'm like, I can sing this whole set very easily. And I'm like, but I have how many, is it 14 shows? I think it's 14 shows.
Well,
including one festival.
I can actually tell you. Yeah, it is about 14, 15. Yep. About 14 shows with the festival.
Yeah.
I actually have it pulled up right here with Fate Destruction. Yep.
Yeah, when there's only 2 days off, I think. So I'm like, so I'm really trying to practice. Like, even my vocal coach years ago said to me, though, never sing live at 100%. She's like, never give 100% of your power live. She says, give like 70% and let the microphone do the rest for you. So like, yeah, like using the microphone to your advantage is like everything with live singing. So that's what I've been really trying to work on is I'm like, I don't want it to be on like day 3 and be like, oh shit, guys, like I can't do it. Like, I don't want to burn out. So I'm really trying to like practice my softer vocals, but using the microphone to make it sound like I'm giving it.
That is a big part of it, is letting some of the microphone, letting the microphone do some of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
That like how you know, how would you know that unless you've done it before? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
I need to just go out and try it and see where my comfort zone is, like where the sweet spot is of how much I can do it. Even like some of our music I wrote to be very complex and all over the place, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it can be done live. Like I've tried it and I've done it. But even like certain parts, like I've had people tell me, you don't have to sing every single vocal part. And I'm like, no, but I want to. And they're like, well, watch any other huge singer. I even remember my mom and I watched Pink, who I love. We watched her movie, and how often I noticed she's not even singing, but her background singers are, and she's just twirling around and dancing. And the background singers are singing like the entire chorus while she's just dancing around. And I'm like, every big singer who's been doing this for like 20 years, they don't sing every single fucking line. They don't sing all the backups and the call and response. Like, they know when to take a break too. So I'm like, I don't need to, like an Exorcism, the title track. It's like, there's like the cheerleader parts, the singing, the screaming. Then there's like the whole like dubstep stuttering part. I'm like, well, I can't sing that obviously. Yeah. But when I was doing that song live, like I had so many friends who are like musicians say to me after, they're like, you don't have to do every part, you know? And I'm like,
I mean, there's literally I can't remember exactly which track it was, but there are even tracks on your album where it like there's screaming happening over clean vocals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do you do that, you know, live? You know what I mean? Like
live, I just pick whatever I'm feeling in the moment. I'm like, whatever comes out.
Oh, that's cool.
Because sometimes I'll do a part singing and sometimes I'll do it screaming.
So you change
sometimes
it up?
I'll change it up, like just depending on what I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll scream it like in the pitch of the singing part, if that's sometimes my scream is so warmed up, like my throat just feels like so buttery and like is buttery a good word to describe it? Like I just feel like my throat is just like so nicely lubed up.
Yeah, makes sense.
So like sometimes it's just like my screams are just sliding out, and then I'll just like scream parts that were supposed to be sang because I'm like, this is actually easier.
That's awesome.
I always kind of wondered about that as far as because I like, you know, as far as like playing shows and stuff, like, you know, I just go off and just hit stuff. Like I don't really have to like exert any force with like my voice or whatever. But like after you're done and stuff, like especially with, you know, with the style of vocals that you do, which is kind of all over the place, it kind of seems like it would be kind of tough to, you know, kind of retain that after so many days of, you know, so many times in a row of doing it for, you know, for like a half hour long or however long the set is every night.
Yeah.
And this fucking, I did want to, like, of course I mentioned this on the, I'm sorry to kind of like change up subjects a little bit, but like this is, just, it was recently announced, right? Like this tour with Fate Destroyed, and it's the Exorcism tour, and it's going through April 15th, starting right here, right in Michigan. Yeah, starting right here in Michigan and going through the whole month of April, all 15 days, ending, like you said, on a festival with Fate Destroyed. Are you familiar with Fate Destroyed? Have you ever heard of them. I'd never heard of them before Keith hit me up or before you guys announced this tour.
I had, because their singer Francesca is friends with our manager Jeremy.
Cool.
So he had brought them up to me before and said like, hey, this would be a good band for you to tour with. And then when we were working with Keith on getting a tour, he was trying to find like another female fronted band to go on tour with, and their name got thrown around. He's like, all right, I'll ask if they want to do it.
I checked them out a little bit earlier, and they're pretty fucking badass. They're pretty fucking good. Yeah.
They're heavier than Living Dead Girl, but I feel like it's really smart for us to tour with other female fronted bands just because it is kind of like a niche thing. Like not everyone loves female metal singers, and to each their own. I mean, you're missing out, but to each their own. But so for us to tour with another female fronted band, it's like, if you like one of us, you'll probably like both of us.
Well, I will say, like I said earlier, one of my, literally one of my, Angela Gasso, the second lead singer of Arch Enemy before Elisa, and after the dude from Carcass, I can't remember his name right now, but she is absolutely one of my all-time vocalist idols. I think very, very few do it better than her in terms of the death or whatever that kind of vocal style you call it, the screaming. Casket Robbery. I don't know if you've ever heard of there's a South American band called Nervosa that I think just is absolutely amazing. Like I fucking love them so much. I really think that there needs to be a lot more room for that. Like the fact that seems to be coming up a lot more is very exciting to me, because I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I do feel like when there's like a death or a screaming style, a death or a blackened or whatever kind of vocal style, I do think that when women do it, like they do it differently. They have a specific kind of, there's something different that I hear in it. There's like a bite. There's like a more extremeness in it when I hear it from you, and when I hear it from Nervosa and Angela and everybody else, it really kind of accentuates it a lot more. That I think is really cool.
I also think with females doing screaming, if it's someone that does screaming and singing, like Maria Brink or Lizzie Hale or anyone like that, there's more of a like contrast between the singing and screaming with the female voice, because the screams just naturally sound masculine. Like they have like that raspy, deep quality of like a man's voice, so that when they can switch between screaming to singing, the versatility and like the contrast is more dramatic than when it's a man screaming versus singing. If that makes sense. That's
exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. So like
when you
have a girl that can sing and scream, it's kind of more impressive than a guy that can sing and scream to some degree, because a lot of male voices are so deep and so raspy to begin with that when they start screaming, it's actually not that far off from their regular voice. Whereas for a girl, it's like so dramatic.
It's like the guys always go deeper, but the girls, like, they come from the top a little bit. They come from, they have like a bite, like from like it's a very different sound, but it's more ferocious.
Yeah.
It's like more violent in a way. That for me personally, at least as a fan, I don't know, that's just, for whatever reason, that's something I gravitate towards. Like when I hear something like that, I'm like, whoa, like there's more, I don't know, like there's more violence in this. There's like, there's something really raw about it. And when I hear Fate Destroyed, like, or Destruction or whatever, like that's I hear that when you guys go into those vocals, I'm like, whoa, like that is ferocious. Like that is and it gets me excited. I don't know,
Mm.
like I think it's I really enjoy that's happening a lot more now than ever, for sure.
So there's always been like really two bands that kind of like, as far as recently that I've picked up on that kind of touch on both sides, and that's Ginger specifically.
Oh
just
my
'cause of
god, Ginger's great.
the super low vocals, and then the singing that's over top of it is pretty beautiful. And then Spirit Box, I think Courtney's
How did I
like,
know you were gonna say those two exact bands?
I know it's just there's just like the two that kind of come to mind when I think
They're
of that
The
style.
kind of
and
biggest
like,
right now too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Spirit Box is awesome.
Oh,
So is
yeah.
Ginger. So is Ginger. They're all great.
Hmm.
I saw Ginger open for Devil Driver a few years ago, and they fucking destroyed.
Oh yeah, I would love to see them live.
No, yeah, they are us. What is okay, so here's one for you. What's like your favorite, like what's the what was like the show you saw live that changed everything? What's the favorite show you ever saw live?
For sure, I ever saw live. Oh, that's a hard pick.
I know.
I've easily been to at least 100 concerts,
Same.
at least. So
props to you for being as young as you are and having seen that many shows. Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
It's hard when you live in
Not
Canada
many.
because most concerts I've seen are in the States. Like I've driven to Ohio,
What?
Pennsylvania, New York.
No
like I'll
way.
drive 10 hours for a concert.
Oh, that's awesome.
I flew to New York City and saw Motionless in White, and then their next day was in Pennsylvania. So then we drove down to Pennsylvania and saw them. And then
Oh
like
my
went back up
God.
to New York.
Oh,
Like I'm an
you're-
avid concert goer.
You're a real motherfucker. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Favorite show ever? That's tough. I'm gonna have to say Starset, especially their most recent concert I saw was in December. Maybe part of why it felt so special was it was my first concert in over 2 years, thanks to lockdowns and shit. So that might have made it a little bit biased because I was just like standing there like, this is so surreal. I get to like chill, like surrounded by thousands of people and watch a show in a crowd again. Like, wow, I can't wrap my head around this. So there was like a bit of a bias there because it was just kind of like surreal to be at a concert again. But they had also stepped up like their production and their live show so much since the last time I seen them. And they've always impressed me live. Even the very first time I saw them, like opening for Breaking Benjamin, like 5, 6 years. Actually, no, I was like 7, 8 years ago. They've always been impressive live, but they've really stepped up. Like they've got like so many elements to their live show. It's like a lot to look at. Like they had lasers and they had a guy doing all the electronic music, and then they had a celloist,
I think. Yeah.
Someone that plays cello. I don't know.
Yeah.
They have a violinist and they have the whole band, and their music is so easy to sing along to. They have like a lot of really anthemic vocals. So like the crowd was really singing along to it. Like that show, just like front to back, like it was a pretty long set too, but like start to finish, that concert was like incredible.
That's awesome.
Not terribly familiar with them.
Yeah, I'm not either. I actually just wrote that down and circled it so I could check them out.
Oh,
Like,
they're
that's-
easily one of my favorite bands ever. They're incredible.
fuck yeah.
What would
They're
you
not
say?
as heavy as like a lot of the bands you've been listening throughout this. Like they're not like as heavy as like Cannibal Corpse or anything by any means. They're a lot more like melodic, like hard rock metal.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they blow me away live.
Yeah, kind of look like Architects, sort of. Like that kind of.
Yeah, like the more of that like radio friendly heavy music, not like just like screaming, but like more. I don't like to use this word because people say it's a bad word, but when it has more of a pop hook to it.
That's fine. No, that's not a bad word here. That is not
As
a
a
bad
metal
word here.
vocalist, people give me shit every time I say pop.
Yeah, fuck them. Because Aaron and I love big hooks. We love big poppy hooks. Like
It's so easy to
we're
sing along
suckers
to
for
it
that.
then, and that's
What we
everything.
love. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, like one of my favorite bands of all, obviously, is Iron fucking Maiden. There's Eddie right there. Like we love the big, like kind of hooks, poppy hooks, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the melody line, if it's catchy and sticks in people's heads and it's easy to remember the words and to sing along to, it's like you've written a good song, whether it's
hit's
poppy
a
or not.
hit.
It's a hit.
Yep, it's a hit. Absolutely. All right. There is one other thing I wanted to ask you about though, because I was doing some research earlier, and I noticed in a particular interview that you mentioned that you are a hard copy collector.
Mm-hmm.
You like to collect like vinyls and CD. You don't like the streaming. You like to buy the physical CD.
I do.
And you're preaching to the choir here at that point. We are big time hard copy collectors. I have a giant CD collection. Aaron is a little bit more into the vinyls than I have been in the past, but I'm trying to get more into the vinyl collecting. How did you start into that?
I just always had CDs since I was a kid because
fuck yeah,
we didn't have Spotify and stuff back then. I remember for my birthday when I was like 5, my mom bought me a CD player and like a few CDs to go with it. Like I had like a Hilary Duff CD, I had Avril Lavigne's first CD, I had a Pink CD, like just like all that early 2000s pop music before, back when I actually liked pop music was from the early 2000s. So like I just always had CDs in my room and stuff when I was little, and like as the world got more digital, like I didn't go with it. Like I only started using Spotify in the past few months because I was having a party at my house and I needed to make a playlist, but I didn't know every single song I wanted off the top of my head. I wanted to like be able to type in one song and find more songs like this and just add them all, because I was going to have like 100 people at my house drinking for a few hours. So I was like, okay, we need like some bangers, we need some pop music, and this isn't my forte. So like I just like went on, I was like, okay, fine, I'll download Spotify. So I like put on like 2 Britney Spears songs and like a few other like party songs from like, you know, like 2006 or something, like that kind of like club and pop music, like before pop music kind of changed styles in the past few years. But so like I put on like a bunch of like club music and it helped me make a playlist and stuff. And I was like, okay, I do see the convenience in this, because it's a good way to discover music you wouldn't normally listen to, and discover new artists, especially because you'll listen to one song and then the next one comes up and, oh, I've never heard this before, but I really like it, I'm going to save it. So for that convenience aspect, I do like it and I do appreciate it. It's the past few months I've been using Spotify a lot because it's gotten me to listen to more things outside my comfort zone. Like usually with my CDs and stuff in my car, or even just using iTunes, I have like the same like 20 albums on a loop. It's like, I'm going to listen to Avril Lavigne, then I'm going to listen to Emotional Sweat, then I'm going to listen to Starset, then Hailstorm. That's it all the time. Whereas now when I use Spotify, it's like, oh, we think you might like this. And I'm like, sure, let's try it. Oh, you're right, I do like this, I'm going to save it. So I have kind of come around to streaming a little bit. I don't like supporting these platforms though, because I know as an artist, it's better to buy the physical copy. So even if I have stuff on Spotify, I'll still buy the CD just because I know like CD sales help artists. And I do love to hold it. There's like an experience of when you get an album for the first time and you open it and there's like the booklet with the photos, the artwork and the lyrics. I also like to be able to check the lyrics and not be singing the wrong ones off Google. I like to see what they actually are.
Yeah.
And
they
like
are wrong on Google. It's fucked
they
up.
always are wrong. And I'll do vocal covers on YouTube and someone comments and like, those aren't the words. And I'm like, fuck man, I Googled it. I'm sorry. But yeah, like seeing the pictures inside and everything kind of completes the experience of hearing the album, because like, I don't know if I'm just like weird or like if other people do this, but when you hear songs, do you picture like color schemes and like visual thing? Like I'll hear a song and be like, oh, like I kind of have like a color scheme in my head, or like I kind and so that's how I picked like the album art for like my own album and stuff, is I was like, I'm kind of feeling this vibe, this aesthetic, this visual complements it. So I always like to see the album because I feel like that's the closest you can get to seeing how it is like in the artist's head. Like I want to see how they would represent it visually, the lyrics, even everything in the booklet down to like the font choice and like everything. Like I'm like totally nerdy about this stuff, about like the marketing and the branding, and like I love all that shit. But to see all the photos with the songs and stuff really like brings the album to life. So like digital just can't replace that.
A lot of that's when honestly one of my favorite things about the whole vinyl thing, because I within the last year probably I kind of started doing that, because I do have I've been collecting CDs for a while and stuff, doing the physical copy stuff, but there's something about like the vinyl aspect. And like I'm a sucker for the color variants right now. I just anytime there's like a limited pressing of something that like I've been listening to for a long time that I just like get, and then like or just like something new that comes out that's just like you put it on and it's like it's a whole thing. Like you sit down with it and like you read through all the notes and stuff, and like yeah, kind of the same thing. Like like reading through like the liner notes of like, oh, like maybe there's like a guest on it or something, or oh, this was recorded somewhere, or oh, this was the just all that kind of stuff. And I think you do definitely miss out on that when it's the digital format. But it all kind of the same thing as far as like, because I've been using Spotify for a while, and that is the main problem I have with it is like I like the convenience of it and how easy it is to like pick up on new things and go from one to the other. But it is also the thing where I don't know, like it doesn't really like when you hear something new versus like getting like something that just came out or that you ordered or whatever that you're interested in, like it just kind of hits your ear differently. And sometimes when you have that physical thing before or like after, when you're listening to it in the full scale of it, it just kind of changes it completely. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask though, like what's you got like a regrettable album that you bought, or like something that like you thought you'd be excited about when it came out that just didn't really, they just kind of you're like, I'm gonna shelve that, like that's not really I don't really get that. Or just something cool.
Nothing's
like,
coming to mind. Nothing's jumping out at me. So I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
Just because I can't think of anything. Like in my car, I have one of those CD players where you can put in like 6 different CDs, and it'll like when one's done, it'll play the next CD. And in the back seat of my car, there's probably like 40 CDs right now, just like in the cases. Like I have like one of those like travel bag things that like hangs over the back of my car seat that I think people with children probably put snacks and stuff in. But for me, it's full of CDs. And I just always been putting in new ones and shuffling them around stuff. And I don't think there's any in there that I like have never listened to. I think I've pretty much listened to every single thing I've ever bought and enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah.
Is your like do you, how do you like is like the CD rack in your trunk?
It's literally hanging over the back of my car seat, and then there's a ton on the floor as well. I never
no, but like where you physically put the CDs into. Because
like is it like the disc player?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's in the front of the car.
Okay. Because I like growing up, I had a buddy that had a car where you could like put like open their trunk, take out a like weird little box, and then put 6 CDs in and put it back in, and that's what the car would play. So that's what I was wondering.
Like a front CD player. Sorry, I sounded like such a dumb moment. I just looked at you and was like, "What?"
Oh no, you're fine. No. So I was just wondering if it was like the same kind of thing as that. That's all I was wondering.
Oh yeah, no, it's just like a normal CD player.
Fair enough.
And then yeah, my car is just littered with CDs.
It sounded like you just described somebody that like wired up a box to their car.
Kind of.
Just like...
It sounds like that. Yeah, I can see why you would think that.
Kind of, yeah. Absolutely. But Molly, this has been amazing. I do not want to keep you for way too long. We have been talking for close to an hour now, and I do have one question that I always ask everyone for the first time they're on the show, especially considering that we're all like everybody's heavy metal. You have an album called The Exorcism. The band name is Living Dead Girl. And you have songs called Poltergeist and all these different things. I have to know. This is something I always have to ask everybody. Have you ever had an experience in your life that you would describe as paranormal?
Yes, actually. And I was oh, sorry, what?
Are you willing to share this story? Yeah.
Absolutely. I was a skeptic at first. I'm one of those people that I want to believe in things. Like I want to be like, have a big imagination and be like, oh, if this is real. But then I'm logical and I'm like, no. So I was like, I kind of wish I did believe in ghosts and stuff just because I feel like that'd make life more interesting and it'd be kind of fun. But I'm like, but like, I don't really. And then after this experience, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I do. Without a doubt. I was like, this just changed everything. There was this house just like 15 minutes out of town, like 15 minutes from my house, that's like abandoned. And I'd heard from like people at school and like my friends and stuff, like, oh, it's haunted because there was like 2 people that died in it. Like one person killed themselves. And then like the real estate agent would disclose that when they'd be trying to sell it, and no one bought it. So it just sits vacant. It's like an old farmhouse, like probably, I don't know, a couple 100 years old. Like it's an old farmhouse with a barn behind it and everything. But since people died in it, no one's ever bought it. And, you know, being a little shit disturber teenager that I was, I'm like, let's get a Ouija board and some like candles and like, I don't know, let's just like go hang out there and see what happens. So I went there with, it was John, our old guitarist, Tyler, the producer I worked with, and my female friend from high school. And so it was like 4 of us there. And so it was just so funny to me because John and Tyler were like quite a bit older than us. And the second I realized they were scared is when I got scared too. Because I was like, you know, I'm the girl and I'm the younger one. I'm supposed to be scared. But once I realized like the adults were scared, I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Like, it's like if you're home alone and you hear a noise, you check and see if your dog is scared. If my dog's like alarmed, I'm like, hey, someone's breaking into my house. But if my dog is still sitting peacefully, I'm like, okay, we're good. So like once I realized the adults were scared, I was like, oh shit, we gotta go. But so long story short, we went to this house and we didn't even get to playing with the Ouija board and stuff. Like we were like, yeah, let's like, you know, just like do some spooky shit. We didn't even get to that point because we were walking around. It's pitch black. It's night. It's in the middle of nowhere, like in the country. We're walking around with like flashlights and stuff. Already at one point, John and Tyler came up behind us and scared us. We'd already screamed once and like got mad at them. And we're just like exploring and stuff. And then we went up to the attic and there was like a noose hanging from the ceiling, but like it was like cut and the other half of it was on the floor. I was like, okay, whatever. Like someone could have just like planted that there, you know, like people know this house is abandoned, whatever. But all 4 of us heard a girl crying loudly, quite audibly in the attic. And all 4 of us were like, wait, shh, like be quiet. Like we got to hear this. And we were all just like listening. I'm pulling my phone out and I'm filming it. And you can hear us all. We go back down the stairs, it stops. You go back up, it starts again. You could only hear it in the attic. You go down a couple steps, you can't hear it anymore. You go back up, you can hear it. So you could hear it in the attic. It was a girl like bawling her eyes out. All 4 of us heard it. No one else had their phone and was like playing a sound and fucking with us because like all of our phones were in our pockets except for mine that was filming. And like there was a fucking noose there. So it's just like, okay. So all 4 of us looked at each other and just sprinted back to my car. Because the second we realized like, okay, none of us are fucking with the other. Like we all hear this. We're not crazy. We all just ran back to my car and drove home. And we were like, screw this, I'm out. And the scariest part of all of this is I still have the video on my phone of me walking around like filming upstairs. I was listening to it the next day with my friends. You can hear us breathing. You can hear like the white noise of like the wind and the air. Like it's not that my microphone was covered or there was a problem with my microphone. You can hear the noise, but there's no crying on the video anywhere. But we all 4 heard it. It was loud. My phone would have picked up on it. So then after that, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be like, cause I was like, I didn't believe in that shit. So I was like, yeah, let's play with the Ouija board. Let's just like take some cool aesthetic pictures and like post it on Instagram and freak out all the other kids at school because I'm the weird goth kid. I got to do my part. Right. Like, I was just like, I think I'm cool. I think I'm badass. And then after that, I was just like, okay, shit. No, this is freaky. Like, it was just the weirdest thing. We all heard it, but it's not in the recording. So I'm like, it's kind of strange.
But it's also, but the paranormal was something you never particularly believed in prior to that.
Not really. Like, I think I wanted to just because I thought it was like cool, but I didn't really. And on top of that, to add to all of this, I also have a doll that talks, even though I took the batteries out. And it says, I'm watching you. And it says on repeat sometimes. A couple months ago, it randomly started talking in my closet and I heard it. And I like went and filmed it and like showed it to people. And like so many of my friends were like, why don't you just throw it out? Why don't you burn it? Why don't you get rid of it? And I'm like, I've seen enough horror movies. If I get rid of it, I'll piss it off and it'll come back. I'm like, I swear to God, if I take it in my backyard and burn it, I'm going to come inside and it's going to be sitting on my bed. So I'm like, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to be that stupid white person in a horror movie. That's not the legacy I want to leave. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. So it just lives in my house. There's no batteries in it. And sometimes it talks. So there is also that. That's a little weird. My dog freaks out every time she sees, like, growls at it, barks at it. So there is 2 things.
Well, that's not a good sign. But
I'm moving soon though, and I was gonna just leave it here. And if it shows up at my house in Florida, then I'll be like really scared.
Then you need to call back into this show immediately. Holy shit. That's insane. That's actually
So yeah, two things, I guess.
yeah, no, absolutely. No, I've had some
Man, that's like some Annabelle shit. Like that's some like
Exactly. Dolls are creepy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Talking like not like Chucky or nothing, like meant to be kind of like comically scary. Like there's
Oh, yeah,
something
Chucky's
about
not even scary.
yeah, there's something about like that for what I'm picturing is like that first scene in The Conjuring when like they kick
Oh,
it
yeah.
out and they toss it out and then it's like back in the house somehow.
Exactly. And I love those movies. And I'm like, I know how this goes. If I try to get rid of it, I'm gonna piss it off.
Yeah.
And I love those movies too. But the real life Annabelle doll is actually just a Raggedy Ann doll. Like
Yeah, it's nowhere near as creepy looking.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I've actually been to Key West and visited Robert the doll, which is like the much more like considered at least the much more haunted one. In that
Is that one you see on Facebook and people say if you see this, comment sorry, Robert?
yes.
Is that the same one? They say if you see
That's-
this, you have to
That's the-
apologize to it?
yes. Because that's the whole thing about him is that like if you go see him and you take a picture without asking for permission, then fucked up shit happens to you, is what they say. And
That's
he's
pretty
like in
creepy.
a little sailor's outfit.
Yes. Okay. I
Yeah.
saw that like the other day on my
Yeah.
Facebook feed. Like, don't scroll past without commenting, and I scrolled past. So maybe that explains why
Wow.
sometimes. Maybe that explains the downfall of events that have happened in my life is because I scrolled past that.
I don't know about if you just scroll past, I don't know if it would do anything like that. But when he is in a glass case in the center of a room in a museum in an old fort in Key West, Florida, and when you go see him, they do say like you have to ask for permission to take a picture, otherwise weird shit might happen. And there is literally a whole wall of letters and photographs of people asking for like forgiveness for like not asking for permission, and people that had really messed up shit happen in their lives after doing that, after taking the picture of him without asking for permission. And then in our case, personally, I don't necessarily know if it had anything to do with him, but we were down there in the same house for a whole week, and like all week went by, everything was normal, and then we went and saw Robert the doll, and then the night we got home, and I kind of feel like I was with it was me and 3 other people. And I feel like it was 3 other dudes. And I kind of feel like one of those dudes might not have asked permission before they took a picture, because when we got back to our house, the house that we were staying in, it was like an Airbnb kind of thing. There were like, for the first time, we'd been there all week, and then for the first time, like I saw a fucking like a big ass fucking cockroach run across the floor, and then there was like a pool in the backyard, and we were chilling in it for a minute, and then I got out, and then some lights started like flashing on and off in the house.
Okay, yeah, I would have left right then.
That were totally fine all week long, and then all of a sudden the lights are starting to flash, and it was kind of weird. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's definitely somehow correlated.
I don't really. All week long they were fine, and then all of a sudden it was weird. But the other thing too is like I've even and after that, because a lot of these places that you see on like paranormal TV shows and stuff, a lot of the locations that they go to are available like you like if you're close to them, you can like pay $100 or $200 or whatever and be locked in there overnight. And
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
but that
Hard
is
pass.
that is a thing that you can do. And in one of those my roommate and I did down in Illinois, the Randolph Asylum, which has been featured in a couple of like on Destination Fear and Ghost Adventures and all that shit. We were locked in there overnight, and we were in the attic during a thunderstorm, and we were doing a blackout session where like I literally couldn't see the hand in front of my face if it was this close. It was that dark. And
yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all.
see, yeah, no. See, yeah, that is the thing. Is
The
I
18-year-old
do
Molly
have-
would have been all over that.
I do.
23-year-old Molly's like, fuck no.
Fair enough. But I will say, like, I did that and like nothing happened. Like it was, we didn't get anything. Like it was totally fine. And so like after that, we were like, it's like, all right, well, we can experience these kind of extreme situations in the pitch black during a thunderstorm in the attic of a haunted asylum, supposed haunted asylum at least, and we feel completely normal. Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
So like that in you know, prior to that and after and since then we've done many more investigations, but there is that where like you at one point maybe get to the point where like you get to experience something, an extreme situation like that where it's you know what I mean, it like nothing happens, and so you kind of like feel a little bit more comfortable, and maybe like, you know, you don't get set off by like a little thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you let your guard down, but then like
Right,
that's when
That's all
something
I'm
might
saying.
go down then.
right. That's true too. That's true too.
Then that friggin' Robert the doll comes out and gets you.
Right. Yeah,
He just
Yeah.
waits until you're
He's-
comfortable and then
he's
shows
waiting
up.
in the winds. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I guess god damn it, I do have one more question. I should have done this earlier. I do have one more question for you. I did want to ask because your first album, Exorcism, you guys did it with some pretty impressive mixers and producers. And so I wanted to, I was just curious how it was working with them. What do I got here? The producer and I'm sorry, master, not mixer. Sorry, producer and masterer. You guys worked with some pretty impressive people, and I was wondering how it was like working with them.
So working with sorry.
Also the because the thing about Jeremy Saffer, is it Schaefer?
Jeremy Saffer, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, as long as I've been, you know, seeing band photography and stuff, he's always
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Jeremy's my manager actually.
been off. I thought he was just photo
Yeah.
stuff and all that.
Yeah, Jeremy's Living Dead Girls manager.
That's crazy.
There's that, because I'd worked with him as a model several times, and he told me that he had managed bands like years and years ago, but he was like my friend in the industry who would give me advice like before I would talk to a record label or a potential manager, or before I'd work with anyone, I'd ask him for advice like, okay, like, is this person legit? Like, what should I do? And then finally, after like years of that, I said to him, you've been helping me this whole time. Do you want to like actually like get paid to do this? Like, do you want to do it officially? And I was like, do you want to be my manager? And like he just like jumped on it. Like at first he was like, whoa, what? Like, I haven't done that in so long. And then like I think he messaged me like a few hours later and he's like, okay, yeah, I want to be your manager. And I was like, all right, sweet.
Oh yeah.
Write up a contract, let's do this. But so I actually met Mitchell Marlowe, the producer that we worked with, through Jeremy. So they had met each other a couple times. And I was just sitting at Jeremy's dining room table in his house one night. I think we were like eating chicken wings or something. And I was just like, no, I think we were sitting there. I was sitting there eating like a whole pint of Ben and Jerry's, just like not crying, but just like emotionally saying to him, like, what do I do now? It's like, I've been recording demos with like local producers in Ontario and stuff, but like, what do I do? I was like, I don't have a label. I was just like, what do I do? And he's like, you need to work with like a big producer. And I was like who? And I didn't know I could just message one myself. Like, I thought you had to have a label to work with those kind of people. Like, I didn't know how it worked. So he's like, you should work with Mitchell Marlowe. And he was the second person who had dropped that name to me, because I'd also talked to a record label a few years ago who we ended up not deciding to sign with. But they kept saying at like we were at like this like board meeting, like at this like long table, like something you see in like a cliche movie, like us like in this like fancy office, like doing this like meeting with them, and they kept saying Mitch in LA, Mitch in LA. They're like, we could send you to LA to work with Mitch. You should work with Mitch in LA. And I was like, who the hell is this Mitch in LA? Like, they kept dropping just the first name as if like I knew who that was. And then Jeremy's like, oh, you should go to LA and work with Mitchell. And I was like, okay, who is this? And why does everyone want me to work with this guy? So I literally just messaged him. Like, I found him on Facebook and messaged him and was like, hey, I'm in this band called Living Dead Girl. Here's like the songs we've recorded so far. Like, how much would it set me back to work with you? Would you even consider working with me? Is that something you do? I don't have a label or anything. And he wrote back like within like 12 hours and was like, hey, I checked out your demos, like pretty cool stuff. Yeah, you want to come like next month? I was just like, and I was sitting there at Jeremy's house. I was like, he responded. I was like, what do I say? What do I do? Like, so I was in Massachusetts at Jeremy's house. And I just like texted my parents. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to LA next. Like, I guess that's what I'm going to go do. So I just went and did 3 songs with him just to kind of feel it out and like see, you know, like if we would like vibe well together and like what working with him would be like. And he was just like so easy to work with. Like within minutes of being at his home studio, I felt like I already knew him. So I made it like really comfortable to write music and stuff. So the first 3 songs we did were Alive, Exorcism, and Poltergeist. So we did those 3 songs. And then once he sent me the mixes a couple months later, like I was going to decide what to do with them. Once I heard the mixes, like I texted him immediately. It was like, we need to do a whole album. I was like, I don't want just 3 singles. I want a whole album. And both him, Jeremy, so many musician friends, so many people told me, you do not have to do a full album. Like, you can just do an EP. Most bands nowadays just do singles or EPs. I was like, no, I really want an album. Like, I just want to have a full length album. And then I went back and recorded the rest of the album with Mitch again. And that was the thing too, is I was going to have a couple different producers on the album. But once I'd heard what Mitch could do with my music, I was like, okay, no, like this guy understands my vision. Like, he seems to just read my mind. So I was like, I want him to do the whole album. And then as far as mastering goes, we got Howie Weinberg, who's mastered stuff like Nirvana and Metallica and U2 and Smashing Pumpkins, and pretty sure he's mastered for like Prince and Mariah Carey, like so many huge artists. Like, his discography is insane. So to even just have his name attached in any way, I was just like, whoa, like, am I worthy of having this guy's name on my album? But he's like friends with Mitch. So Mitch was like, oh yeah, I'll just hit up my buddy Howie. Like, he can do it. So like Mitch just like texted him and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll master it. And I was just like, whoa, like, I was like, these are some pretty big names I'm getting. But it's really cool how small the metal and music community actually really is. It's like, I knew Jeremy because I was model and I was shooting with him. And then through Jeremy, I got to Mitch. Through Mitch, I got to Howie. And then like I've met so many other industry people, so many like, and then we got our booking agent Keith through Jeremy, and our publicist Maria. Like, and everyone knows everyone. Like, I'll get like my publicist Maria, and I see that she likes Mitch's pictures on Instagram, and Mitch is like, oh yeah, I know her too. And then I have like my friends' bands like Breaking Benjamin stuff. Their manager, also named Jeremy, is like, oh yeah, I know Mitch too. Like, everyone I know in the metal industry somehow knows each other. Like, it's actually a very like small, tight-knit community. So it's actually really cool how like it's kind of like a domino effect. Like, you start working with one person, then you start working with this guy, and then you start working with that guy. Like I kind of felt like once I was in. So meeting Jeremy was honestly like the most beneficial thing for me ever, because through him I got to meet and work with so many other amazing people just because he knew them. So it's just kind of like one thing led to another, and it all happened. It all worked out.
Hey, man, right place, right time. Kind of seems like you as well.
Yeah, networking is everything.
That was like, was there something behind? Because I mean, you said that, you know, you guys have been writing these songs for, as long as I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but as long as like for the first one for about 4 years prior to actually doing all the recording and stuff, like was there one off of it specifically that like when you got it back you were like, holy shit, like this is gonna be like I'm really excited to hear the rest of this, or like that kind of like set things in motion for the rest of it, I guess. Or is there one in particular that kind of sticks out that you're like, that kind of, yeah, I guess that yeah. Sorry.
Definitely Exorcism, the title track, because I have it on my phone somewhere. Maybe one day I'll post it so I can laugh at it because it's really bad. Exorcism was originally like, once again, I'm not like a subgenre nerd, so like I don't know the terminology well. But like I'm gonna say like death metal. Exorcism was originally like a death metal song, which is hard to picture now because it has like the like stutter electronic vocals, and it has like the cheerleader gang vocals and a lot of pop elements to it, if I dare say that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to imagine that song as anything but that song was originally like just screaming and even more like biblical lyrics than what it already has. And then when I went to Mitch with that demo, I was like, I've got these lyrics. I think the concept is cool, but like I want it to be fun and playful, but still heavy. And he just like knew what I meant. Like I was like, think like Avril Lavigne, but heavy metal. It's like I want it to be girly and cute and flirty, but really fucking heavy. And he was like, say no more, I got this. Like he somehow knew what I meant. By the time he and I had finished our album, like we were laughing, saying, I think we invented a genre, and we were calling it bubblegum metal. Because we were both like, I can't think of one other band this sounds like. Like it sounds like Living Dead Girl. So like that was actually really cool. But to hear Exorcism the first time when he sent me the mix, I put it through. I've got like surround sound speakers in my kitchen. I put it on a loop for like a good 4 hours, like jumping and dancing around. I was so excited. It was like late at night, but I was so hyper and so excited. Like when I got that mix is when I was like, holy shit, like Mitch is the real deal. I need to work with this guy again.
Oh yeah.
That is that is one of the first things I thought when I heard Living Dead Girl, was that it was a genuine mix of different sounds that I had never heard before, but also work in a way that I've never heard before. Like it works so well. These, and that's something we talk a lot about on this show with a lot of the other bands we talk about. Like there's no set, it's like, you can use the subgenres as a way to describe certain sounds that you might hear in particular songs. But at the end of the day, everybody's doing everything now. And I've never heard anyone do mix the way that Living Dead Girl mixes those different kinds of sounds. And I think they're like, it blows my mind that that you guys are so like recent, and I feel like you are like prime for being a great like a great bridge band for a lot of people to like maybe they're not too into heavy stuff, but they like the slightly heavier stuff, and then they find you, and then they get into the heavier stuff, yeah, like that. And you guys are so fucking awesome at
thank you
at just mixing those different sounds in a way that I literally was in a high school when Skater Girl came out. Like I was in high school or sorry, middle school. Like I grew up with Avril Lavigne and Green Day and all that stuff. Like, and it led me to all this. And so to hear this mix of sounds now being provided by you guys, like it's kind of like special, like to me in a lot of ways. And like, I really think it's a unique perspective and a really great perspective on that on like a new kind of like you said, a new subgenre. It really is a new, like I've never in all the shit from 4 years now of doing this podcast, I've never heard anything like this. So
Thank you.
it's totally unique. And I think it's very special. And I think it needs to be as big as it deserves to be. And I feel like it deserves to be very big.
Thank you.
It really is that to me. Like I really feel that with you guys.
It's crazy that you mentioned Exorcism, because that was the first song that BJ showed me, and I was like, this is pretty different. And the only
That
thing
is
that
a
I can
beautiful
say about
cat.
it
Sorry,
is-
Aaron.
yeah,
Sorry,
right.
Aaron. That is a
Sorry,
beautiful
she's
cat.
rubbing my leg. I had to pick her up.
Surprised mine's not in here right now,
Sorry.
bugging me. But yeah, that was the first song that we heard that he showed me, and I was like, I like it. I wasn't expecting what I heard, but I was like, I want to hear more of it, because like there's so much. And then like going through the rest of it, I was like, there's just like the style wise, the influence is just kind of all over the place. And so that was why we're pretty excited to kind of talk about kind of where the influence wise, and kind of where these sounds come from, because like we like kind of in that same sense, like when I was younger, like I'm the youngest of 3, and like when I there was a point in time where the first 2 Avril Lavigne albums were going on repeat and stuff, and like there's something about that sound, and then getting into like the heavier stuff, and then kind of landing on this all this time later is like very familiar, but it's also like damn, this is about like if I were trying to get into that sound, or like if I were trying to show somebody something that would like kind of get them into this style, is like this is kind of be where I would start. So I don't know, it's cool to hear where that all kind of spanned from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that you like that you have brought that kind of influence into the scene in general. And I think that's really a great thing. And I think it's gonna be yeah. I like when I listen to Living Dead Girl, I'm like, how is this not on the fucking radio all the fucking time right now? Like, and I don't even listen to the radio. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really listen to the radio that much. But still, it's still that same mentality of like, it should be there. It should be right next to Slipknot or whoever else, like back to back to back on the radio playlist. Like and I think this tour with Fate Destroyed, I cannot wait to see.
Are you gonna be there?
100%.
Wait,
100%.
I was gonna say, you got it. Like, from playing in Michigan, like.
No.
Yeah.
That's my rule. That's 100% my rule, is anybody that's willing to come on our stupid little fucking podcast here. If you're willing to come on our show, I will be at your show, no question. And not only that, I'm gonna pick up a copy of the. I'm gonna pick up a hard copy, and I'm gonna order the one that's I see online. You got one that's signed, so I'm totally getting that that version of the copy, the hard copy. Because that's my rule. Like if someone comes on the show, I'm getting their hard copy. I probably would normally anyway, because I'm a collector. But also I will never miss a Living Dead Girl Michigan date ever. Like that's the other part of the rule for me. Like if you come on my show, I will never miss one of yours in Michigan.
I love that.
So that's just what it is. Like and all we want to do is fucking party with everyone that's been on.
Yes.
And that's the other thing too, is a lot of it is like, like we at Lost in the Dark, we got hit up early on in the pandemic from Keith from the Convalescence, and he sent us so many people, and so it was during the pandemic where we got so many of these amazing guests like yourself on. And it was, during that time we couldn't go to shows, shows weren't happening. So now it's like, Yeah. And your first American show is gonna be in Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing the
That's
first show of the
crazy.
whole tour.
Yeah. There's no fucking way in hell I'm not gonna be there. Of course.
It'll
I'll
either be the best or the worst show. We'll see.
that is the
Hey.
thing. That is the thing about the first show, right? Like that is,
Either way, it only goes up from there. So
Exactly.
so it's gonna be amazing. I feel, oh my god, it's 9:40. I have kept you for way longer. I cannot thank
That's okay.
you,
I also never stop talking, so that's half my fault.
but I can never thank you enough for giving us your time tonight. This was absolutely amazing. We'll wrap this up real quick. Living Dead Girl is going on tour with Fate Destroyed on the Exorcism tour. They kick off on April 15th in Westland, Michigan at Joy Manor, and then they go to Indiana, Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Ohio. They have a massive tour coming right now, starting very soon. So everybody be sure to check out all things Living Dead Girl. Because and if you're gonna be at that show at Joy Manor on April 15th, 4/15, 5 days before 4/20, in down there in Westland, Michigan. Aaron and I have never been to that venue before, so we're extra excited to check out. And it's very rare that there's a venue in Michigan we don't know about. And I've never heard of that one. So I'm very excited to check out a new venue, check out you guys live, and it's gonna be fucking amazing. And
Yeah, I'm insanely excited.
I think you guys are gonna have a really amazing tour. And huge shout out to Keith from the Convalescence Legend Recording Agency for setting all this up. As always, he is the best. But yeah, Molly, I cannot thank you enough, seriously,
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you for wanting to be, like, this blows our minds that you even want to be on our show. So thank you so much. And I'll end the recording real quick, and then we'll wrap up. But thank you so much for being on the show. And you and anyone else in Living Dead Girl are welcome back on this show anytime ever you want, ever. Whether it's just to promote something, or like maybe there's a new the next I actually happen to know that there's a new album, or Avril Lavigne album, coming out this year. So if you want to come back on and talk about that, we're down. Like, and anything that you ever want to come back on and talk about, we love you to death. Like, this was absolutely amazing, and we can never, ever, ever thank you enough. This was outstanding. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great talking to you guys.
Beautiful. And yeah, you're welcome back anytime. But we're gonna wrap this one up. And
what he said. Let's leave it at that.
As always. And we will be certainly at that show down there in Detroit. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll see you there.
Definitely. Thank you. Come on, what did I tell you? Like, that was an amazing discussion. We really went down some rabbit holes. I always, whenever I have a guest on, especially someone I haven't met in person and never had on the show before, I do try really hard to like keep it to an hour, because I don't want to, like, you know what I mean? I feel like an hour, someone giving me an hour of their time is already a ton. And so I try to, but then sometimes once you hit that hour mark, that's when you start going down some rabbit holes. So that's kind of the most fun part, honestly. And I cannot ever, from the bottom of my heart, thank Molly enough for giving us her time, all her time on this episode. Absolutely means the world to us. And this was so far probably my favorite show of the year. So far. So like this was one of my favorites of all time, actually. So this was a really good one. And I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. One more time before we go, everybody be sure to pick up a copy of Exorcism from Living Dead Girl, their first full-length album, which was released on September 8th, 2021. And be sure to check them out on tour with Fate Destroyed with me in Westland, Michigan at Joy Manor on April 15th. And then they're touring North America all the way until from April 15th to April 30th. So the second half of April, they'll be in North America with Fate Destroyed. Be sure to look that up. Look up all their social media, all things Living Dead Girl, all things Molly Rennick. Please, everybody be sure to give them all the love and support. They deserve it. They have a really great, unique sound that I like a lot, actually. And everybody be sure to check them out. Check them out, please. If she didn't convince you enough, I don't know what will. But please, yeah, everybody be sure to check them out because I can't wait to see them live. I think their live show is going to be fucking gnarly. And I'm really looking forward to it. And it's at a venue I've never been to in Michigan, which is rare. So I'm excited for that too. Really looking forward to that one. So if you're going to be at the Westland show on April 15th, let us know in the comments below. We would love to see you there. But that's going to be it for this episode of Lost in the Dark podcast. That was the name of the original song. Lost in the Dark podcast. From the bottom of my heart, seriously, Molly, thank you so much if you're seeing this right now. That this one meant the world to us. It really, and you and anyone else from Living Dead Girl are welcome back on the show anytime ever, and we can't wait to see you on April 15th down there in Westland, Michigan. But that's going to do it for this episode of Lost in the Dark. Thank you all so much for joining us, and as always, raise your fucking horns and bang your goddamn heads to some Living Dead Girl. We love you all to death. Good night!
Lost in the dark.